Welcome into the Room for Improvement podcast, NFL Draft Edition. I am Josh Zavadil, joined as always by Sebastian Posey, sitting across from the table and looking at his notes and staring at me.
Hey, Josh.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good.
Good. The NFL Draft is well underway. It is almost over, and it has provided quite a few laughs if you've been following it throughout these past 3 days, especially on social media. And the biggest update of today, Saturday, is the Alabama legend and warrior who led Alabama to was a part of 3 national championships.
We are not worthy.
A.J. McCarron is going to be a member of the Cincinnati Bengals. He pretty much free fell, whatever the terminology should be, and ended up in the 5th round as the 164th pick overall, 24th pick in the 5th round. And it came out today. I guess earlier today there were a lot of people commenting on why he fell, said that he rubbed some teams the wrong way with his arrogance and how cocky he was. Did you see that coming from him? I mean, I know in Alabama, we see him as just this quarterback overlord because he helped Alabama do all these great things. But, you know, to play the position that he plays, you've got to have a bit of an edge.
Yeah, I don't get these reports, to be honest with you. I think, one, why has this not been out more before this? I think it's just one of those things where people are looking for reasons. The fact that anyone even thought the guy was going to be a first-round pick is laughable.
And whoever was telling him he was going to be a first-round pick, who?
But honestly, like with him saying, I'm a first-round talent, good. Say that. That's confidence. That's exactly what you need. And I think, hey, if he goes away with this with a chip on his shoulder and he has a little time, he's actually in a decent situation just because Andy Dalton, while young, doesn't necessarily have all the confidence of Cincinnati. So they're going to give Dalton another year this year. They're probably going to make the playoffs because they are a decent team. And if Dalton goes through the same troubles he's had the last 3 years where he just completely falls apart in the playoffs, McCarron might actually have a shot at starting. So, you know, he free-falled, even though technically I don't think he really did free-fall. I think he went probably where he should have gone.
Yeah.
And it's just it's frustrating, I think, in the aspect of like, oh, all these quarterbacks are going to go so super early. No, they're not. Some of them will. There's a lot of hearsay in the NFL going into a draft where they'll tell you about players. He went probably where he should have gone.
Hugh Jackson for the Cincinnati Bengals addressed the media after A.J. was picked, and his first words were, "This isn't about Andy Dalton. This isn't about his girlfriend either. This is about improving the quarterback room." Said A.J. will not take practice reps from Dalton. He will have to work more before and after practice. And then outright said, Andy Dalton is our quarterback. We stand behind him 100%. But the fact remains, A.J. is going into a situation where, like you said, Andy Dalton has been less than amazing, I guess you could say, as the quarterback in Cincinnati. And you know, AJ's had these knocks against him. People have talked about his mechanics and all these other things that people have kind of labeled onto him since he came out of college and saying that he needed to work on these things. Now he has an opportunity to come in, put in the work, and prove that he is the winner that everybody says he is, and, you know, work his way to that opportunity, and he's going to have to earn it. And I think that's going to be good for him after a couple of years just being the main guy at Alabama and having an easy time, really.
Yeah, there can only be 32 first-round picks.
Right.
And
math.
Yeah, it's just math dictates that unless we start getting more teams, which, knowing Roger Goodell, we probably will, maybe even by the end of this podcast. But, you know, there's a lot of great players that have been selected in later rounds. A guy who just became the highest paid cornerback in the history of the league came from the 5th round. My favorite player came from the 6th round. That's Tom Brady, of course. And, you know, there's a reason why you have 7 rounds. If these players weren't important, they wouldn't have these rounds.
Another quarterback switching to the primary rounds of this draft, everybody does not talk about who's going to go in the 5th round when you're leading up to the draft.
I think that way.
You do, because you're odd. But
Hey.
leading up to the draft, you're always talking about who's going to be taken in the 1st round, where is this standout player going to go. This year, the number 1 overall pick from the Houston Texans was the guy that you said that they should take way back when we did our other NFL draft podcast. Who was it? Who did they take?
Jadeveon Clowney.
And do you think it was a good pick? Obviously,
Yes,
you do.
I do.
You do.
Which, by the way, there was a lot of rumors this week about them potentially going for Mallet, which would have made me 2 for 2 on that podcast, and I'm so upset that it's not happening.
There's still time.
Well, they drafted Savage, so I don't think they're going to do it. Put it this way, I don't think it's going to happen by the end of this show, so I can boast about it.
Okay, that makes sense. Blake Bortles was picked 3rd overall by the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't know how you pronounce that name anymore.
You can pronounce it however you want. They just want you to say it. They don't want you to forget they exist.
We exist.
Please remember us.
Blake Bortles, 6'5", 232-pound quarterback from Central Florida, had a very impressive year last year and really shot up, I guess, the draft boards of a lot of teams. And he was the first quarterback taken. And do you like that for Jacksonville? Because they've had some inconsistency at the quarterback position for a while now.
That is an understatement. I do, actually. I like that pick a lot, primarily for the fact that they are immediately trying to help him. They drafted Marquise Lee. They also drafted, and I'm forgetting which one it is because I'm blanking right now, but they also drafted another wide receiver in the 2nd or 3rd round. So basically they're going with as much offensive firepower as they can. They're trying to revive that side of the ball, which is actually pretty good. They have a very defensive-minded head coach in Gus Bradley, who came from Seattle.
Marquise Lee.
I said Marquise Lee.
Allen Robinson.
That's it, Allen Robinson, the Penn State guy. I was thinking it was either him or the dude from Vanderbilt. But yeah, they're pulling they're trying to load that side of the ball. And I think if you watch Jacksonville play towards the end of last year, because I hate myself. They actually started kind of gelling in certain parts of the game, and they actually started winning, which I thought made no sense. Why are you trying to win now? But no, I think they're a team that if these pieces they're getting, which, I mean, they're not going to be good this year. They're all young players, but I like their picks. I like Bortles. I like Marquise Lee. I like Robinson. I think it's a good move for them.
And the other amazing development from the 1st round, obviously, was sad Johnny Manziel. Even the NFL tweeted out #sad Johnny Manziel. I'm not sure whether they tweeted that out because they have a 14-year-old running their account or because somebody hacked their account. But nevertheless, they tweeted that out as Johnny Manziel just kind of kept dropping in that 1st round. You thought the Browns were going to take him with their first pick. They ended up not taking them. But come around to the 22nd pick, and Johnny Manziel lands with the Browns again. Are you satisfied with that? Because as a Johnny Manziel apologist, I guess you could say, I really think that this is a good spot for him in a place where he's going to succeed.
I do. I think, and when we were doing the draft, I think both of us kind of admitted that we liked Johnny Manziel. The Browns, to me, were probably, I thought he might go 3rd to Jacksonville just because I know he actually really liked Jacksonville when he visited. I had heard nothing but positive things from Jacksonville about him, which is coming from a franchise that didn't really lie about anything. If you look at a lot of the GMs, you look at a lot of the talk from all the teams over the last few weeks, they were one of the few that didn't really throw a bunch of fake stuff out there. Granted, because they didn't say much, but hey, that counts. When he did not go to Jacksonville, I thought, like a lot of people, maybe Dallas would go for him because Jerry Jones is a lunatic. Nothing against Manziel. It's just because they just paid their quarterback a year or two ago a lot of money. That's not a position they should be worrying about. But then again, Jerry Jones doesn't care. And if you're listening to this, Jerry, first off, thanks. And second off, I'm sorry. But no, Browns to me they were the number 3 team I thought he'd go to. And it made sense. Browns, what they did in the 1st round, to me, it makes that Draft Day movie look a lot more intriguing because they were making just crazy moves. They traded down from the 4th. The only thing that was weird to me is they traded up from 9 to 8. But other than that, I felt that they had. Sorry, I'm distracted because New England Patriots are on the clock right now. But uh, no, I felt that they had a very strong draft, and I felt moving up to 22 to get Johnny Manziel was a great move. I think if I remember reading correctly, they sold a bunch of season tickets going into Friday morning after that draft.
I think it was something like 1,500
Yes.
season tickets, which pretty big for the Browns, I would say.
Yeah.
Pretty big.
He's probably the biggest athlete in the city of Cleveland right now.
Yeah,
I
because
don't know if that's saying much, but yeah.
Not even by stature. We skipped over it, but an Alabama tie, state of Alabama tie. Second pick overall, Greg Robinson, offensive tackle, 6'5", 332 pounds, from Auburn, went to the St. Louis Rams. They filled a need there, and I think he's going to be able to step in and be immediately helpful in protecting Sam Bradford and, being an actual functional NFL player. I think he's going to be a good guy. Good guy.
He's also going to be making some lanes for his college teammate, Trey Mason, which I thought that was a pretty cool move for them to be able to still be teammates. No, Greg Robinson is of the two first linemen taken, him and Jake Matthews. Robinson to me is definitely the better one. I hate the word raw because I don't really understand what they're always trying to say when they mean it, but I think it basically just comes down to that man I don't even think he's touched his potential, and he's already shown how good of a player he is. So I can imagine under Jeff Fisher's system, he's only going to get better. He's only going to get scarier. I think, honestly, the best thing for him, which means now you don't hear his name ever again because that means he's doing his job.
Right.
And so if you don't hear Greg Robinson's name until it comes down to award season, that's what you want. And I think it's a great move. And a lot of people talked about them trading out of the second pick. No, keep that pick, get an offensive lineman, keep your quarterback upright because Bradford has not been able to finish a season the last 2 years. Great pick.
And it's not a pretty move. Taking an offensive tackle, an offensive lineman in general, is never a pretty move. But GMs, front offices, they're not thinking about making a pretty move and appealing to the fans. They've got to do what's best for their team. And with Greg Robinson available there, they definitely were able to fill a need. And then later in the first round, Dee Ford gets taken by the Kansas City Chiefs. Wasn't even in New York City. He was in Anniston with his friends and family, and gets taken. The linebacker out of Auburn is now going to be a member of the SEC Chiefs.
They really do love their SEC
It's
players.
weird.
It's almost like it's between either the Chiefs or just how Ozzie Newsome apparently only watches Alabama games.
Aaron Murray too now.
Oh, that's right. They did get. Hey, look, if it's the best conference in football, why not try it? No, Dee Ford actually, that one kind of I'm not saying it's a bad pick. I think he's a great player. Everything I had read, the earliest I saw him going was second or third round. But hey, if a team falls in love with a guy, they think they could step in. By all means. Dee Ford was an amazing defensive player. I think it's a great pickup for them, and it just adds to that label of the SEC Chiefs.
Cyrus Kwanjo, Alabama, went second round. He was there in New York City. He went in the 12th pick of the second round to the Buffalo Bills. And there was a lot of talk, not necessarily a lot of talk, there was some talk about his knees and his health issues that perhaps maybe played into him dropping out of the first round. Do you think that had anything to do with it?
Yes and no. I think the knees is something where you're going to heal, hopefully. It's his play, though, at the end of the year, and even some of the earlier year, like Virginia Tech game.
But was that impacted by
It
injury?
could be. It could be very much impacted by injury, but since you don't fully know, you don't know how to look at it.
Right.
If you can actually quantitatively say the reason he played poorly in the Sugar Bowl or how he had like a lot of spurts throughout the year where he just did not look like he was interested, if you could say it's because of injury, okay, I get it. But since you don't know, since you think maybe he just kind of checked out, I don't know if you could trust it. Now, when he was, junior, the 2012 season, he was really good. And if that's the guy you're getting, that's a steal in the second round. But if he can't be that consistent, he's not going to last long. Or at least he's going to be fighting for a spot every year.
Alabama did have two players of their own taken in the first round of this draft. They had C.J. Mosley taken by the Alabama-Baltimore Ravens, run by Ozzie Newsome, who
Just loves
he
him
loves.
some Crimson Tide.
Alabama linebackers will always have a special place in Baltimore. What is that? Rolando was there. Courtney is there. CJ's there. Terrence
They got
Cody
Mount Cody there.
re-upped. So, yeah, I mean, it really is. It's like the Nick Saban defense north.
I honestly think Ozzie Newsome just doesn't watch anything else but his old college team play. So when it's time to actually get into the draft room, like, who do you want to go?
Any Alabama players available?
Well, who's next? Yeah. And apparently ESPN thought they were doing it too because they put up them drafting AJ McCarron.
I
Poor
saw
AJ.
that. Which, let's talk about that for a second. It was hilarious. It happened today, Saturday. So AJ is just free falling. All this stuff is coming out saying that he's cocky, he's arrogant. He said things that rubbed people the wrong way. He was critical of other people in his interviews. And it comes time for Baltimore to pick. And it's like ESPN with their sixth sense was just like, all right, he's going to take an Alabama guy. And they publish on their website a picture of A.J. McCarron and stating that he was drafted by the Baltimore Ravens, which, spoiler alert, he was not.
No, he was not.
How long was that up?
Not long, because I saw it. I immediately started texting some friends about it, and they could not find it. So they thought I was making that up. I was like, I swear it's what it just said. But I'm sure they took it down pretty quickly because they ended up taking a running back out of Coastal Carolina, which I'm sorry, AJ, but apparently a running back from Coastal Carolina is a more valuable pick to them than you.
Yeah. It was. I'm glad that at least is not necessarily a Photoshop. There was a hilarious picture that was getting passed around of Johnny Manziel on draft night as he was getting passed up by these teams, and it looked like he was sitting at the table having a beer. And everybody was like, ooh, Johnny Manziel is just partying up back there. It ended up being a Photoshop. It was
just had water.
But it was getting passed around the internet, and everybody was freaking out. So I'm glad the A.J. McCarron thing was just a real thing, not a Photoshop.
Which, by the way, anyone who watched the draft on Thursday would know he wasn't drinking a beer because they had basically like 5 cameras on Manziel at all times. I'm surprised they didn't go picture in picture.
Which, did that bother you? Because there were other guys who were getting passed up.
Mm-hmm.
But the cameras were all on Manziel, which I get it. I mean, he's popular.
yeah.
He's the marketable guy. He's got all the hype around him because of, just who he is. But there were other guys in there, too, who were getting passed over, and he was just the only one with the camera in his face.
Which, by the way, like, he wasn't even react. Like, I think they wanted him to be a little more upset, and he's just whatever,
Yeah.
He fell to 22nd. Like, all these people are like, oh, he really fell. He's still in the first round of the NFL. Like, that's still a huge deal.
Yeah. I felt like people were trying to, you said force, they were trying to force the sadness.
Yeah.
I think there's another internet website that put together a video of Johnny Manziel to that Arms of an Angel song or whatever from the sad commercials where, is it sad commercials of people or is it a sad commercial of, like, dogs? I don't remember what that, Sarah McLaughlin.
Oh,
or
yeah, it's
whatever,
the dog.
however you say her
the
name
dog
is.
and cat. Now you're going to make me cry. It's the most depressing commercial campaign ever.
They put that to video of him sitting there in the draft room, and it was just incredibly forced and not funny at all.
Well, I just didn't know, like, if they're trying to make you feel bad for him or just like, oh golly, he's still just sitting here. But like, whatever, he still ends up going. He still goes at a very good pick. And hey, good for him if he's going to be able to use this. Now, granted, he might not have anyone to throw to because their best receiver might be out for the year. But hey, the guy's got passion. The guy's got heart. It's something like everyone wants to call him the next Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow, as fired up as he got on the sidelines, he wasn't really. To me, he just came off as somebody who was very much like, oh, hey, I'll just do what I can. Let me help here. Let me help here.
Yeah.
Manziel comes off more to me like a Brady, like a Manning. Not necessarily built that way, not necessarily that skill set, but he looks like he comes off that fiery, that intense, that I'm not going to get off the field until we do something here. And that, to me, is why I think he's going to succeed.
Taken, I guess it was one pick before Johnny Manziel, Alabama free safety, 6'1", 208 pounds, Hashan, otherwise known as Ha-Ha, Clinton Dix, went to the Green Bay Packers. And I think that was a good pick for them. They needed to shore up some defensive issues.
No, they didn't need to shore up defensive issues. They needed to get a defense.
Well, okay, I was trying to be generous.
Well, you could be as generous as you want. They need to get a defense.
So now he gets to reunite with Eddie Lacy up in Green Bay and be as cold as possible.
I'm sure he'll get used to it, maybe. Yeah. I mean, Lacy seemed to be fine with it.
Yeah.
But no, that was a great move by them. At least I think it is. The last few years, Alabama's secondary, and at least Alabama defensive players in general, really have not transitioned well to the NFL. But, we'll see. I think HaHa Clinton-Dix has that ability and has the talent. Let's just see if it transitions.
Other Alabama players taken not on the first day. Let's going down the list here. Kevin Norwood's the one that sticks out to me because I really wanted my favorite team to take him because I think he's a really good wide receiver, and obviously I'm an Alabama fan and graduate, Roll Tide. And he was taken by the Seattle Seahawks in the 4th round, 23rd pick of the 4th round. I think this is a perfect spot for him.
Absolutely.
You have Russell Wilson out there, and especially with, I believe, Golden Tate leaving, there's an opportunity for him to step in, and he's never going to be relied on to be a number 1 receiver. Maybe even not even a number 2 receiver. But he's a guy who has proven time and again that he has all the skills necessary to make the tough catches. He's good at coming back to the ball, which he had to do a couple of times and bailed A.J. McCarron out in college, especially, I believe, two or three of the catches on that game-winning drive against LSU in 2012. He had to come back to the ball and made some improvisations in his routes. But I think this is a good spot for him.
The way I've referred to him the last few months is he is going to be one of the best wide receiver 3s in the league. He is not a star. I agree. I don't even think he's a wide receiver 2. But if he landed in a situation, and Seattle is a great situation for him, to where he doesn't have to be a star, he doesn't have to be the go-to option, he's going to be, as a fantasy football player, people are not going to like him. Because you're going to have like Percy Harvin on your team, and you're going to want Percy Harvin to get the touchdown.
And then it's going to be Norwood.
And it's going to be Norwood in the red zone because his hands, like he just seems to have this ability to make, like you were saying, make those catches. And I think you're going to see that from him. Not, again, not year one. Wide receiver is one of those positions it takes about 2 to 3 years to really get acclimated to the league. But I think he's going to be one of those guys where it's just you don't see him much, but when you do, it's important.
And the NFL Network ran a pretty neat piece on him. It is on their internet.com website, just about where he came from. He was impacted by Hurricane Katrina. He's fought a lot to get to where he is today, and there was a moment early on in his career, I want to say it may have been the Cam Newton game where they beat Alabama in Bryant-Denny Stadium.
I don't remember this game.
Yeah, no, I tried to erase it from my memory as well. And he dropped an important pass that could have he had a lot of green in front of him, and he said that was just kind of a big moment for him that made him realize he needed to work hard, and he never wanted to experience that pain and having let down his team ever again, in which you move on from that moment, and he really didn't. Anytime he was asked to make a tough catch, anytime Alabama needed a big conversion, it was usually Kevin Norwood helping him out, and he was vital in their win over LSU in the national championship game, and then when he made all those catches in the final drive against LSU. I think that's a phenomenal pick, and I'm just raving over him because I love him that much, but I think he's going to thrive in Seattle.
Okay. I'll tell you what, since we've talked a lot of SEC, why don't we just talk some surprises in the last, is there any pick that you saw in the last 2 days, or even now as we go, as the Jets are on the clock? Oh, no, they picked. It's now the Houston Texans. We are breaking news on this podcast that will not be going up until tomorrow. But is there any surprises in the last 2 days?
Not necessarily a huge surprise, but I really liked what the Vikings did at the end of the first round, getting the 32nd pick and taking Teddy Bridgewater from Louisville. I think, that's another team that has kind of a shaky quarterback situation, has had in the past couple years.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good position for him. And what about you? You're never surprised. You know everything about the NFL.
I don't know everything. No, there's definitely picks here and there that you go, I'm a little shocked by that one. Just personally, like the Jimmy Garoppolo to the Patriots one kind of threw me off, but not in a bad way. I just think that, going in the second round for a quarterback, which made, again, to ramble on about my prediction of Mallett, thinking there's no way he stays on the team now, which frustrates me. But no, and again, though, that was a surprise, but it was a good surprise. I thought that was a really good move by them. And the guy, if you look at him, looks like a combination of Brandon Routh and Henry Cavill, the last two actors to play Superman, which is kind of cool.
You would think that.
I noticed it immediately, which is sad.
Did you want the Patriots to take a different quarterback than the one they took? Did you want them to take a Mettenberger or Murray or?
No, I'm actually. The more I thought about it, that to me was probably their best option because he's not a guy you want right away. He's a guy that can kind of learn. He has the good size. He has a good arm. He has hand size, the good hand size. Which to me, if you watch the draft the last two nights or and into today, that terminology is just one of the weirdest things to me. Hearing four grown men in suits constantly talking about college-aged people and their hand sizes. But hey, whatever. No, I think it's a great pick. I think he's somebody who you can kind of let him hang out for a bit and learn, and then in a few years be the new starter or trade him.
Groom him to be. Yeah.
Well, he already looks well groomed. That was a nice suit.
Goodness.
That was a quality suit he had on.
And an awful joke.
I always have awful jokes. You know this.
So Logan Thomas went before A.J. McCarron, Aaron Murray, and a whole bunch of other people.
Which actually makes more sense than you think.
Measurables, yes. I mean, I get it. That was everything that sold him. But it was just hilarious seeing, because everybody was talking about, when's A.J. McCarron going to get drafted? And they're like, oh, dear goodness. There is
golly.
the old golly. There is Logan Thomas, Virginia Tech, who just had a final year in Virginia Tech.
That was the most quality analysis. I don't know if you could tweet that because it's just straight up onomatopoeia there, but it was just, no, you summed up. No, I think with him, what you're going to get from Logan Thomas is either they're going to see if he can be an NFL quarterback, and if not, he will transition to tight end, his natural position he had in high school because he was like the third-ranked tight end coming out before he went quarterback. He's like 6'7". He's a big dude.
You never go full quarterback.
But no, I think, and they've already talked about it, and I think he said he's fine with that if he can't make it as a quarterback, they will transition him back to tight end.
As long as he's okay with that, and it's good that he understands that that's a very real possibility for him because, as you're an athlete transitioning to the professional phase of your life, if you really want to make it work, you've got to be, in my opinion, you've got to be open to doing the things that are going to prolong your career and that are going to make you as marketable and accessible as a professional athlete. And I think a lot of guys get into this mindset where they're like, oh, I only want to play quarterback or I only want to do this, when they there's a very real chance that they could help in another area. So it's good that he's open to that.
Well, and I think, too, because, there was an argument with Tim Tebow saying, why doesn't he switch to a halfback or a fullback or, a tight end? And I think the difference is if you've never played those positions, you don't just learn a position. I think it helps that Logan
has played it. But that can be said for Tebow, but there's a lot of guys out there who played multiple positions throughout their career. So they know the position, and also you get this far, you're not dumb.
No.
You know the gist of how some of these positions are played. And so, again, it's good for him that he's open to that. Going down the list before we wrap this thing up, Vinny Sunseri, Alabama, coming off of an ACL injury, went to my favorite team, the New Orleans Saints, which I'm happy about. He's going to be fun on special teams. I don't know what he's going to actually, because they drafted, they helped themselves out in the secondary with this draft, so they've addressed some of their needs.
And they are, and in the offseason, you guys did sign. I said you guys. I'm sorry.
Guys, yeah, I don't own.
You have no ownership of that team.
I'm a fan.
The Saints, the team you are a fan of,
Thank you.
Signed Jarius Byrd, which is a very, very good safety.
So he's gonna. I mean, I don't know what contribution-wise he's gonna be able to do. I'd assume it's gonna be a lot of special teams for now until he is asked to step up in a different role. But he landed in New Orleans. We'll be able to watch him in the South, and fans will be happy about that. A lot of Alabama fans won't be happy about it because a lot of Alabama fans are Falcons fans, and the Saints and Falcons don't quite get along. Jeffrey Pagan, 6th round. First pick to the Texans, and Ed Stinson, 5th round, 20th pick to the Arizona Cardinals. You mentioned earlier Trey Mason from Auburn went to the Rams. We didn't talk too much about Trey Mason going to the Rams. That was in the 3rd round, but I think that's another running back that's going to be able to contribute and help that offense.
Well, and he's going to fit into like the new NFL mode of running back, which is you're not looking for workhorses anymore. You're looking for kind of platoons of just multiple guys, and I think you now have a backfield of him and Zach Stacy. That's a pretty good 1-2 punch with them, both SEC guys, and I think if they get that line situation sorted out, especially with Greg Robinson, that's going to be a pretty good tandem of running back up in St. Louis.
We appreciate you listening to us here on the Room for Improvement podcast. As always, you can check out the stuff on our website. We have a photo gallery of all of the first-round draft picks, and we have plenty of other content for your delights on our internet.com website. You can view it all there. You can follow me on Twitter at Joshua Zavadil. That's JOSHUAZAVADIL. That was really funny because I almost forgot how to spell my last name while I was spelling it out.
Probably didn't help that I was staring right at you when you were doing it.
That's true. Nothing helps when you stare at me.
Hey, Josh.
And you can follow Sebastian Posey at, what's your Twitter handle?
At Sebastian Posey. It's pretty simple.
Okay, spell that out for the people. What if people can't spell?
SEA. I'm spelling Seabass, my nickname. SEBASTIANPOSEY.
Could you use it in a sentence?
Is that pocket full of Posey? Ha!
Oh, dear goodness. And on that note, thank you for listening, and we will be back next week with more of whatever we choose to talk about.